Islam in irreligious countries presents a unique dynamic, as it exists within societies where the majority of the population identifies as secular or unaffiliated with any religious tradition. Despite their secular outlook, these countries have growing Muslim communities largely due to immigration from Muslim-majority countries. The coexistence of Islam in these predominantly irreligious societies raises questions around integration, cultural identity, and the public role of religion. In many cases, the Muslim community's religious practices and beliefs often come under scrutiny as their minority status intersects with broader societal concerns regarding secularism, multiculturalism, and national identity. So let's start.
Number 10, Denmark.
Denmark is going on the number 10 where Islam is growing fast. Islam is practiced by a minority in Denmark, with Muslims making up about 5% of the population. Denmark, like many Nordic countries, is predominantly secular, with a large proportion of the population being non-religious or unaffiliated with any faith. Despite this secular background, Islam has emerged primarily as a result of immigration from countries such as Turkey, Pakistan, and Syria. Although Denmark has a long history of religious tolerance, the Muslim community has faced concerns about integration, cultural differences, and radicalization. Danish historian Jørgen Bech Simonson's documents that bring Denmark and the Muslim world face to face date back to the Middle Ages, when Danish troops participated in the Crusades to wrest Jerusalem from Muslim rule. King Frederick V of Denmark also traveled to southern Arabia to collect information, plants, and specimens. Among his fellow travelers was Carsten Niebuhr, who observed and noted the customs of the area. One of the first Danes to convert to Islam was Knud Holmboe, a journalist and author of Desert Encounter, in which he detailed his first-hand account of the Libyan genocide. Debate about issues such as the Islamic headscarf and the construction of mosques is frequent in public circles, reflecting the ongoing debate about the role of Islam in Danish society. The Danish government has implemented various policies to address these issues, focusing on integration and social cohesion, but tensions between the Muslim community and the wider society remain a significant aspect of the national discourse.
Number 9, Spain.
Spain is largely irreligious, with most Spaniards having no religion. Christianity is the largest religion in Spain, with Catholicism being the main denomination. Islam is largely driven by migration, high birth rates among Muslims, and conversion. Recent waves of migration, especially during and after the 2000s, have led to a rapid increase in the number of Muslims. Today, Islam is the second largest religion, but lags far behind Christianity, mostly Roman Catholic and non-religion. Islam was a major religion of the Iberian Peninsula, beginning with the conquest of Umayyad Hispania in the mid-16th century, and ending, at least in concrete terms, with the expulsion of the Moriscos by the modern Spanish state in the early 17th century, an ethnic and religious minority of around 500,000 people. Although a large proportion of Moriscos returned to Spain or avoided expulsion, the practice of Islam remained obscure until the 19th century, while many crypto-Muslims continued to practice their faith in secret for years. The Spanish Constitution of 1978 declares in Article 16 that no one may be forced to make a statement about their religion, beliefs, or ideologies, which means that all figures on religious beliefs are estimated. Today, just over 5% of Spaniards are Muslim, but the number is still growing. According to the Commission, the number of converts has increased an estimated tenfold in the last 3 decades.
Number 8, Canada.
Canada is religiously diverse, encompassing a wide range of beliefs and practices. The Canadian Constitution refers to God. However, Canada has no official church, and the government is officially committed to religious pluralism. Freedom of religion is a constitutionally protected right in Canada. Canada does not have a state religion today. Most Canadians are irreligious. 4 years after the creation of Canada in 1867, the 1871 Canadian census found 13 European Muslims in the population. The first Muslim organization in Canada was registered in 1934 by immigrants, mostly from Syria, living in Regina, Saskatchewan. Bosniaks and Albanian Muslims were the founders of the Jami Mosque, Toronto's first mosque in 1968, which was converted into a mosque, originally an old Catholic school building, on June 23, 1973. As of 2024, there are at least 458 mosques and Islamic centers across Canada. Most mosques are located either in major metropolitan cities, suburban areas, or some smaller towns. Today, more than 5% of Canada is Muslim. Canadian Muslims are one of the most ethnically diverse religious groups in the country. According to Canadian census data, Islam is the fastest growing religion in Canada.
Number 7 United Kingdom.
Britain is known as a multi-faith, secularized, or post-Christian society. Britain is now a majority irreligious country. The earliest evidence of Islamic influence in England dates back to the 8th century when the Anglo-Saxon king Offa of Mercia struck a coin with an Arabic inscription, most of which were copies of coins issued by a contemporary Abbasid ruler, Caliph al-Mansur. Muslims from North Africa, the Middle East, and Central Asia were present in London in the 16th century. Just a decade later, the Arab Spring and later the Arab Winter sparked a civil war in Syria, a war in Iraq, 2 wars in Libya, a war in Yemen, and numerous other uprisings by political groups and other terrorist organizations. They gained control over large areas of the Middle East. Most Muslim immigrants to Britain came from former colonies. The largest groups of Muslims are of Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Indian, and Arab descent, with the remainder coming from Muslim-majority areas such as Southwest Asia, Somalia, Malaysia, and Indonesia. Since the 1950s, the growing Muslim population has established several notable mosques, including the East London Mosque, London Central Mosque, Manchester Central Mosque, London Markaz, the Ahmadiyya Muslim communities Baitul Futuh, and Cambridge Central Mosque. More than 6% of the UK population is Muslim. Muslims are the most diverse of all UK populations. Thousands of people convert to Islam every year, and around 100,000 people in the UK, according to Kevin Bryce, a researcher at the University of Wales, Trinity St David, where he runs 2 institutions.
Number 6 Netherlands.
The early history of Islam in the Netherlands can be traced back to the 16th century, when a small number of Ottoman traders began to settle in the country's port cities. As a result, the first makeshift mosques were built in Amsterdam in the early 17th century. In the following centuries, the Netherlands experienced sporadic Muslim immigration from the Dutch East Indies as part of the Dutch overseas possessions throughout its long history. The economic recovery of the Netherlands in the years between 1960 and 1973 encouraged the Dutch government to recruit foreign skilled workers, particularly from Morocco and Turkey, both predominantly Muslim countries. Later waves of Muslim immigrants arrived through family reunification and seeking asylum. Small but significant minorities of Muslims also migrated from the former colonies of Indonesia and Suriname. During the late 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s, the Muslim share of the population grew steadily due to family reunification, marriage immigration, high birth rates, and the influx of asylum seekers, reaching around 4.8% in 2000. Immigration laws, a declining birth rate, and former refugees migrating to other Western countries led to the Dutch becoming Dutch citizens. Today, more than 6% of the Dutch population identifies as Muslim. Islam is the fastest growing religion in the Netherlands, both in terms of population and number. In 2007, demographer Joep de Beer estimated that this percentage would increase to 8% by 2050.
Number 5 Belgium.
The Belgian constitution provides for freedom of religion, and the government respects this right in practice. The first recorded presence of Islam in Belgium was in 1829. A year before the country's independence in 1830. In 1964, a bilateral labor immigration agreement was signed between Belgium, Turkey, and Western countries. More than 10,000 workers from these countries moved to Belgium, mostly in low-skilled jobs such as coal mining, steelmaking, the automobile industry, etc. This trend stopped in 1974 when all foreign manual laborers were banned from entering the country. That same year, Islam was officially recognized as a religion in Belgium. Islam is a significant but minority religion in Belgium, with Muslims accounting for an estimated 6% of the total population. As Belgium is a largely secular society, with the majority identifying as irreligious, the role of Islam is somewhat marginalized, although it is an integral part of the country's cultural and religious landscape. The majority of Belgian Muslims are of Turkish and Moroccan descent, reflecting historical patterns of migration. Despite their growing presence, Muslim communities face challenges related to integration, social cohesion, and occasional political tensions. In recent years, Islam has become a focal point in public debates, with debates on Islamic practices such as the wearing of the hijab and the rise of radicalism. Belgium has responded to these concerns with policies aimed at promoting integration, although relations between the Muslim community and wider society remain complex.
Number 4, Germany.
Most Germans have no religion, with Christianity still the largest religious group in Germany. Islam is the country's largest minority religion. Muslims first migrated to Germany in the 18th century as part of diplomatic, military, and economic ties between Germany and the Ottoman Empire. At the beginning of the 18th century, 20 Muslim soldiers served under Frederick William I of Prussia. In 1745, Frederick II of Prussia established a Muslim unit in the Prussian army called the Muslim Cavalry, and it consisted primarily of Bosnians, Albanians, and Tatars. Today, Muslims make up 7% of Germany's population, mainly Muslim immigrants from various Muslim countries. In a 2014 academic publication, it was estimated that approximately 20,000 to 100,000 Germans have converted to Islam, a number comparable to those in France and the United Kingdom. Muslim youth are much more religious than non-Muslim German youth. Germany's Muslim population is culturally diverse and growing. There are approximately 2,800 mosques and Islamic places of worship in Germany, of which only 350 have the typical cupolas and minarets of Turkish Ottoman architecture.
Number 3, Austria.
Austria was historically a strongly Roman Catholic country, as it was the seat of the Habsburg monarchy, which supported Roman Catholicism. You may be surprised to hear that Austria is now a majority irreligious country. The Catholic Church is still losing followers due to current secular trends in Austria. Historian Samuel Balick says that the first evidence of Muslims in Austria comes from nomadic tribes from Asia who entered the region in 895. In modern-day Austria, Islam grew rapidly in Austria during the 1990s and 2000s, rising from 0.8% in 1971 to 6% in 2010, surpassing the traditional size of the Lutheran community in Austria. This rapid growth was due to significant immigration to Austria from Turkey and Yugoslavia during the 1990s and 2000s. Today, more than 9% of Austria's population is Muslim, making it the most diverse country in the world. Muslims play a significant role in both the country's economic and cultural development. Muslims in Austria are more religious than any other religious group. A Tag der offenen Moschee, or Open Mosque Day, was first held in October 2013 with the aim of building interfaith relations between Austrian Muslims and non-Muslims. The event has been held annually since then.
Number 2, Sweden.
Historically a Christian nation for centuries, the majority of Sweden is now irreligious and only a few people consider religion important in their lives. Despite all this strong secularization and Islamophobia, Islam is a trending religion in Sweden with a growing number of mosques and followers. Muslims make up 10% of the total population of Sweden. Islam is still growing steadily. Islam has been present in Sweden since the 9th century. The influx of Muslim immigration from the Middle East, the Balkans, and parts of Africa has influenced the religion's population in Sweden and has been a primary driver of the spread of Islam in the country. The Muslim community in Sweden is ethnically diverse, vibrant, and culturally diverse. Although there are no official figures on the exact number of Swedish converts to Islam, it is estimated that 3,500 people have converted to Islam from the Church of Sweden since the 1960s. In September 2018, the Social Democratic Party in Karlshamn revoked the membership of a Muslim politician after a translation from Arabic showed that the politician had campaigned for the supremacy of Islam over Swedish customs. Sweden is a Muslim hotspot in Nordic Europe. According to the Pew Research Center, if Islam continues to grow at the same rate with immigration and a high birth rate, Muslims in Sweden will make up 30% of the total population.
Number 1, France.
From the spiritual center of Catholicism, France is a secular country with freedom of religion as a constitutional right. French policy on religion is based on the concept of laïcité, a strict separation of church and state whereby government and public life are kept entirely secular, indifferent to any religion. The majority of the French people are irreligious due to the secular revolt against the Catholic Church since the 18th century. Islam has a strong historical presence in France. During the conquest of Iberia and the conquest of Gaul, Umayyad forces would conquer and annex the entire Iberian Peninsula and modern-day southern France. According to research by Henri Lapierre, approximately 50,000 Moriscos entered France after the expulsion of the Moriscos from Spain in 1609 to 1614. The Great Mosque of Paris was built in 1922 as a sign of recognition from the French Republic to the fallen Muslim tirailleurs, mainly coming from Algeria, in particular at the Battle of Verdun and the takeover of the Douaumont fort. With the decline of Christianity, Islam is emerging with greater immigration of Muslims from North Africa and other Muslim countries. Notably, 12% of the total population of France identifies as Muslim, and this is still growing. Paris has become a Muslim center with a large Muslim population. According to the French Muslim Association, there are over 200,000 Muslim converts in France. The French Overseas Department of Mayotte has a Muslim majority.